Hey everybody, welcome back to another live stream. Today is July 8th, 2025. It's already Tuesday. Friday will be here before you know it. Time is flying. We've been talking about that for a couple of weeks, and several people are feeling the same way. Is it our perception of time, or is time literally going by faster? I think it's a combination of both, to be honest with you. In this video, we're going to talk about the pole shift, the possibility of the pole shift, and what it could do to the Earth, people on the Earth, all the creatures of the Earth. It's a real thing. It's happened before. It's going to happen again, and supposedly it's way overdue. I've done a lot of research on the pole shift phenomenon. Long time ago, but I've gotten emails here recently about the pole shift and people thinking that maybe it's getting close because of the flashing light phenomenon, and it makes sense. It makes sense. Um, if the electromagnetics of the Earth are being influenced by a variety of different things, whether it be the magnetic shields weakening, and we already know there's a weak spot down in the. Let's see if I have Google Earth on here. I think I do. Yeah. We already know there's a weak spot down in the South Atlantic. It's called the South Atlantic Anomaly, which is right down here. And it's an ongoing field of study. They're studying this magnetic anomaly right here. So if it's fluctuating, the North Pole is wandering a little bit, which it always has. The North Pole has wandered for years. It's wandering more, and they say it's speeding up. So at some point, the magnetic north, there's two different types of pole shifts, by the way, and we're going to talk about that in this video. But the magnetic north is going to eventually flip, but it's like way overdue. I think the last time this occurred was 780,000 years ago. Seems like such a long time, right? But with time flying the way it is, it wouldn't surprise me. Be here before you know it. Also in this video, I've got a hurricane update to share with you guys. I've got in Indonesia, the volcano that erupted yesterday. I'm going to show you guys a unique perspective of the massive eruption. Sent gas and ash plume, 11 miles high in the sky. Indonesia, of course, is home to many volcanoes, many supervolcano complexes. Some dormant, for the most part, they're dormant, but I think there's one active one. A lot of volcanoes down in the southern Pacific, just in general. I have a UV reading, my first UV reading out of southern British Columbia, Abbotsford, British Columbia. In fact, I'll show you guys exactly where that UV reading came from. Got it, I got it today. It was from yesterday, right in here, Abbotsford. And Abbotsford sits at the 49, almost 50-degree north latitude. So as we've talked about before, the higher up you go in the latitudes, and if I put the latitudes on here real quick, I'll show you guys. The higher up you go on the latitudes of the Earth, the lower the UV. The lower you go, the closer you get to the equator, then the higher the UV, because of the thinner atmosphere. The atmosphere and the ozone is what protects us from UV, and the ozone layer would be compromised, at least temporarily, during a pole shift. At least it should be. And radiation would be allowed to penetrate the atmosphere. That would be one of the biggest concerns of a geomagnetic pole shift. A geophysical pole shift, that's an entirely different league of its own. That one we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about both, but one of the biggest concerns is that. So during a geomagnetic pole shift, the higher up you go on the latitudes, the more protection you should have during a pole shift. Not a geophysical, a geomagnetic. But as we're seeing, and I'm going to show you guys the reading that I got from my friend Darren up there in Abbotsford at the 50-degree north latitude. Thank you, Darren, for the reading. Darren's been sending me readings for years from this location. And he looks like he's right on schedule. It's 11.2. That's the reading of the UVAB. And that's what we normally get down here on the surface of the Earth, UVAB. We don't want UVC, measurable UVC, down here on the surface of the Earth, because if there ever is, I mean, if it's measurable, that means the atmosphere is failing. So we don't want to see that. That's why we take these measurements. And we can also we can learn a lot from these measurements, like the freaky flashing lights. They're trying to tell us a story, right? This is telling us a story. 11.12. You can see his high right there when he first turned on his instrument and held it up to the sun. And you want to measure, there's his clock, 12 noon, and on 7/7, this is from yesterday, he got a 12.09. That is consistent with what he's been sending me for years. And that's actually a little bit high for British Columbia. British Columbia is at the 50-degree north latitude, and their readings are the same, consistently the same, as they are out here in Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm down here at the 33-degree north latitude. I'm down in here. But Darren's readings way up here, and I think he's around 1,000 miles away. Let's look. We'll just do an approximate measurement here. British Columbia, he's right in here. 1,200 miles. And he's 1,200 miles to the north. So the atmosphere up there, under normal conditions, is thicker. But that's not what the UV readings are showing us. So something has changed up here in the 50-degree north latitude, at least in that area. I'm not quite sure why we're getting, that's an unusual reading. Thank you, Darren, for the reading. Really appreciate that, man. Good job. Keep them coming. Darren will send readings all summer long, every other day. So the readings out here in Arizona, I did take one today. I didn't record it, though. I was kind of in a hurry. 11, it was the same as Darren's, around 11.2 at high noon out here in Arizona. So 11.2 in Arizona, 11.2 in British Columbia, and they should have been much different. So yeah, but during a magnetic pole shift, the UV would probably go through the roof. Here we go again. Are you serious? My thing's vibrating here. Now this, I mean, I get these calls constantly, guys. It's like, what? Another one. Here we go. I just, you guys getting these spam calls all the time? I know it can't be just me. I know my wife gets them too. In fact, I need to check and see if she's had any today. That's the second one today. I mean, it's just every day. If it's not spam email, spam phone call, unbelievable. Yeah, spam call. I don't know. Maybe it's got something to do with AI and all these. But I don't know. I just don't recall ever being, just every day, just overwhelmed with spam calls. But and I've got my phone on vibrate, and it still got through. Came through here. Okay, magnetic pole shift versus geomagnetic pole shift. Geomagnetic pole shift would make things very, very chaotic on the Earth, and there's not a whole lot known about that. The magnetic pole shift, there could be an increase in volcanic and earthquake activity, but not a whole lot, and it could take thousands of years for the North and South Pole to switch again during a magnetic event. Just basically what boils down to the North and South Pole just reversed, and it doesn't involve movement of the crust. We don't want to see one of those. That would not be a good day. There would be tsunamis globally. The whole personality of the Earth with respect to the continents and the maps and the position of the continents that we know now. And the biggest problem with a geomagnetic reversal shift, crustal shift, would be the relocation of the land masses, the continents. What's caused them to change over the years? I used to have an app on the website. It was called Ancient Earth. And you could go back millions of years and look at the position and then the shapes and sizes of the continents over the course of millions of years. And Earth has always changed. And Antarctica wasn't always Antarctica. This is a landmass that's been here during our generation, but it wasn't always at that specific location. In fact, I think it was up or near the equator. So how did it get there? Was it continental drift? Did it just slowly drift there over the course of millions of years? That's a possibility. One thing that I've always thought of with regard to Antarctica, um, things down there are literally frozen in time. So that being a very large landmass, at one time it probably was loaded with life, different life forms that were wandering, the continent when it was up near the equator. Well, those life forms being frozen in the ice, if those molecules and whatever types of things that were going around back then, millions of years ago, were ever to get loose, I think that could be an issue for everybody, everything on the Earth, if Antarctica completely thawed out and whatever's trapped underneath that ice starts getting in the jet stream, getting in the water currents in the ocean. That's one thing I've always thought about, so we don't want to see that melt, at least me, for that very reason, because what's trapped underneath there probably needs to stay there, And I think that's why, too, there's always been a small armada, just 30, 40 countries down there at one time. I don't think so much today, but there for a while, there were, I think, 40 different countries down in Antarctica at one time studying the ice cores, learning about the pole shift and looking at the variations of the polarity, magnetic polarity of things frozen in time. That's a great place to learn about the history of the Earth. But we always have to dig down into the ice or the ground to learn about the history of the Earth. There's no, 2 million-year-old library sitting around somewhere that we can go and retrieve books and archives about the Earth. Everything's in the ground or the ice. So that tells you, just that alone tells you, and our very need for archaeologists, that tells you that cataclysms have occurred on the Earth many times over. But what causes these? Is it a geophysical pole shift? It's very possible. I don't think a geomagnetic pole shift would do a whole lot of harm to the Earth, with the exception of, which would be bad, is the UV. UV would probably go through the roof, and and in the elevations, the UV is already high. I know that from experience. I've measured the UV up the mountain here. I went up to Flagstaff and measured all the way up to Flagstaff. I didn't go any higher, but I know the UV progressively got higher the higher up I went in the elevations. So the elevations will definitely protect you from a tsunami if coastal waters were to come inland. But you got to be careful of the UV. That is a big, big deal. What else do I want to? I've got a lot of things to share with you guys. Let me switch from geomagnetic pole shift to geophysical here in a minute. But the impact on the Earth during a geomagnetic pole shift, there's no evidence that there would be any more earthquake activity than what we're seeing now, or any more volcanic activity. Speaking of volcanoes, I want to switch gears real quick. Check this out. You guys have probably seen this already, but one component of this video you probably haven't seen. This is a volcano that erupted yesterday, Mount Luotobi down in Indonesia. I'll show you exactly where this erupted. Here's the massive column of ash and smoke that was catapulted, I think, 11 miles up into the air. Look at that feature right there. Isn't that cool? Let me back it up just a little bit. I want to look at that again. That is so wild how these volcanoes, their personalities, they can send out smoke rings, and then that big feature right there that looks like a tube in the sky. I mean, that is wild. Here's where it erupted, right here. And I'll show you where it's at on the map. It looks brown on this satellite. This is a satellite view looking down at Indonesia. There's the eruption, and it was a big one. Wow. But the smoke plume looks brown. See how brown it looks on the satellite? But from the ground, looking up, it looked gray, grayish white. Very dense, thick column of smoke. So during a pole shift, volcanic eruptions might be to our benefit. Could protect us from harmful UV. Absolutely. Look at that. that is just massive. And that smoke traveled for miles all the way across the island. And here's another view of it. Again, looking totally gray from this point of view, gray and like dark whites. There's that column right there in the middle. See that? Pretty wild. But there it is on satellite. Big eruption down in Indonesia. So during a geophysical magnetic reversal, yeah, we'd see a lot of volcanic activity. The Earth, the entire Earth would change, and it wouldn't be a pretty sight. I don't know that. Uh, I don't know. It just wouldn't be a good day. I do know that weakening magnetic fields could affect the Earth's core dynamics. And that's one thing that I was looking at with these flashing lights. You know, if the magnetic field is weakening, and that's something that people have been talking about in the emails, could it be? Could it be? I've gotten several emails, more than I've ever gotten. That's why I'm talking about this today, about the magnetic field possibly weakening, and these lights that I know it's weird, they're flickering all over the world, up to almost 1900 now, by the way. And I'm just one guy. 1900 examples, different examples have been sent in to me just in the last 7-8 months. Could it be a disturbance in the magnetic field causing all of these this interference? So does interference, malfunctions, whatever you want to call it. I think it very well could be. At least it's an option. I hope it's not an option, but you know, at least a realistic option. I hope it doesn't happen. We don't want to see a pole shift, but a geographic pole shift is much different than a geomagnetic pole shift. True polar wander or crustal displacement event. Now you're talking about tsunamis and now you're talking about earthquakes and pretty much a global chaos event. That's exactly what would happen. Continents would change. We'd have to rename everything. Rivers would be rerouted. Probably have new oceans. It would just be a terrible, terrible day. But we're going to talk about it here real quick. A geomagnetic reversal is the physical shift of the Earth's crust relative to the mantle, potentially caused by an imbalance in mass distribution, melting ice sheets, mantle convection, or external gravitational forces. And back to these weird flashing lights, and I have an update I'm going to share with you guys because I'm getting close to 1900. I've got to share some of these. People are still sending them in every single day. So if we did see a geomagnetic, geographic pole shift, there would definitely be an increase in volcanic activity. We're seeing a little bit of it now. We've got Etna that's, you know, in and out. She's throwing a fit every once in a while. Kilauea is active. I would consider Kilauea very active. We just had the volcano down in Indonesia erupt, and I'm sure we'll probably see more. I'm attributing that to solar maximum, but right now the sun is so quiet. I think it's the calm before the storm. Look at the Earth-facing side of the sun. This is the Earth-facing side of the sun, and there are no sunspots. Okay, you've got to be kidding me. Check it out. Another one. That's 2 in 10 minutes. Wow. Anybody else getting all these spam calls, or is it just me? Yeah, the geophysical, back to the point at hand, the geophysical reversal would not be a good day. Massive crustal shift would occur, disrupt the tectonic plate boundaries. The continents would literally change. Everything would change on the Earth. Increased stress in the lithosphere, potentially activate dormant fault lines. So we'd see an increase in earthquake activity and volcanic eruptions, cause major earthquakes. And that's another thing that was brought up about the potential for another major earthquake over in Japan. Is this tied into a reversal of some sort? You know, there's an ongoing swarm. The officials in Japan are warning of another megaquake. Well, a reversal would cause probably more than one megaquake worldwide. So does it all tie in? People are asking, you know, and I'm researching, trying to understand it myself. It could. It very well could, because truth you know, sometimes it's stranger than fiction. We like to think, oh, this stuff isn't going to happen. Well, it's happened before, and it's definitely going to happen again. Volcanic eruptions, major earthquakes, and of course, tsunamis. This they say if you're inland at least, what do they say, 300 miles, you're probably good to go. If you're 300 miles inland from any coast, but don't quote me on that. I see a super chat up there. Who is that? Pure Blood TV. What's going on, Pure Blood TV? You do a great service. Watched you for years. Grab a sandwich, mate. Thank you, Pure Blood TV, for the super chat. Now, if you guys have any questions or comments, by all means, feel free to send a super chat just like Pure Blood TV did. It's a big shout out, and I appreciate it. And I'll try to answer your questions to the very best of my ability. Thanks again there, Pure Blood TV. I want to give you guys a quick hurricane update while I'm thinking about it. No active storms at the present time. Chantel's kind of the remnant of Chantel's making its way up the East Coast, delivering a little bit of rain here and there. I think there's some power outages in New York and not New York. Well, there's a few, almost 2,000, 20,000 in Pennsylvania, Maryland looking at 10,000. But as far as any new activity, storms developing anywhere near a coastline, even anywhere in the Caribbean, the Gulf, the Atlantic, or the Pacific for that matter, zero, right, at least today for the next 5 days. So everything's all good on the hurricane front, so shouldn't be any activity. But again, weather forecast, I don't want to go beyond 5 days, especially during hurricane season, because there's been a lot of moisture down here in the Yucatan, the Central America area down here in the Pacific, over into the Caribbean Sea. That moisture has been there for months, and it's slowly making its way to the north. And it's going to be pushed to the north via tropical storms, possibly hurricanes. So I think it's going to be a wet summer in some places, like we're seeing, unfortunately, in Texas, and saw some flooding in North Carolina. We talked about the possibility of that. And it's raining again today. You can see right here on the map, raining again in the Carolinas. That right there represents very heavy rainfall. Right now, literally, as I do this video, 6:30 Eastern time. But back to the magnetic pole reversal, the geophysical pole reversal would trigger major tsunamis, major earthquakes, and of course, major volcanic eruption. Geomagnetic reversals are well documented in Earth's history every 200,000 to 300,000 years. A true geographic pole shift on a catastrophic scale are far more controversial and not widely accepted in mainstream geology as a sudden event. Some researchers like Charles Hapgood theorized about rapid crustal shifts, but this idea lacks solid geological evidence. Still, if one were to occur, the geological consequences would be massive and worldwide, and they definitely would be. So there is a difference between the two. Thank you, old combat vet, for the super chat. No pole shift on our flat stationary Earth. Well said. I respect your opinion. You know, we've never seen a pole shift. We weren't around for the last one that supposedly occurred over 780,000 years ago. I mean, that's a long time ago. So as far as one happening soon, nobody really knows. There could be some, you know, catastrophic event that causes, I don't know. But like, you know, old combat vet said, there's a community out there that's into the flat Earth. And again, it's a theory, flat Earth theory. And if if it was indeed a flat Earth, then you probably wouldn't have to worry about a magnetic reversal. You got the firmament that's not going to go anywhere, right? But that's a whole another topic of discussion that I've researched, and I've studied the flat Earth versus the round Earth. And Earth, guys, really, if you look at this, and I don't want to stay on this too long, but this is a topic you can talk about all day long. You know, flat versus round. I can tell you this: in my studies, years ago, I saw a satellite when I was kind of doing some schooling, okay? And yes, I did go to school. We got to see the Earth from a very unique point of view. There's satellites, and that they're not really used a lot. or at least shown publicly, but they're up above the North Pole, way high above the Earth. Most of the satellites, like we're seeing here and like we see here, are looking at the Earth from an equatorial point of view because they orbit the Earth and they depend on Earth's gravity to maintain that very specific orbit. To get a satellite up above, way up above the Earth, could be tricky, you know, but we did see the Earth from up above. And we saw um, a geomagnetic storm. Speaking of geomagnetics, we saw a geomagnetic storm occurring from this satellite. And you could see the aurora oval. You could actually see the plasma interacting with the equator. It was really, really cool. And it was in a blue format. It was really weird. But looking at it, you can actually see, and no disrespect, old combat veteran, I respect your opinion. But I just know in my reality and what I've seen and what I saw through that satellite, and I saw the geomagnetic storm interacting with what looked like a plasmoid, a spherical shaped object. It wasn't flat. I will say this, the top of the Earth where the aurora oval was glowing, but again, it was hard to tell, and this thing was way up in the sky. It kind of had a flat appearance to it, but the Earth was by no means perfectly round. No. No, we're on this weird shaped rock. Believe it. And some people believe it's flat. Again, no disrespect. I respect your opinion, but you know, I have my opinion too, and I very humbly disagree. I disagree based off of my schooling and what I've learned and what I saw through a satellite with my own two eyes. It was pretty wild. Only got to see it once, but yeah, it was very wide at the center. In fact, we couldn't see the entire Earth, obviously, but and here's something that I learned, and it looked like to me the bottom of the Earth was bigger than the top. Okay, even though we couldn't see the bottom, we could see the north, not the top. You know, we could see it all the way down to the equator. But I did a calculation. I've done a lot of different studies and experiments over the years, and I have done my homework. Trust you me, I've done a lot of homework. And if you calibrate, if you measure, like we already had ours was right around 2 weeks ago. Our longest day of the year in the northern hemisphere is on or around June 23rd, and that's our summertime in the northern hemisphere. It's first day of summer, 21st, 22nd, 23rd. Well, if you look at the first day of, and I think the day is just a little over 13 hours long, 13 hours of daylight. And now if you notice, the days are already, and we're just on July 8th, even though time is flying by, the days are already very noticeably getting shorter. I noticed the sun's not coming up quite as early, and it's setting a little bit earlier. In the southern hemisphere, if you look, and I've done the research, if you look at hey, there's a super chat. If you look at the length of the longest day in the southern hemisphere, it's longer than it is in the north. So that tells you that the bottom is bigger than the top, at least above the equator. It's because it takes longer for the sun to make a lap, or at least the Earth to rotate completely from from sunrise to sunset. It takes an hour longer in the southern hemisphere. So that tells you that the southern hemisphere is about 1,000 miles, between 500 and 1,000 miles broader, wider than the northern hemisphere. Thanks for the super chat, Peter Shell. Could be Buckyball Earth. You know what? Earth is not this what we're looking at right here on the screen. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Really appreciate that. And guys, keep the super chats coming. Let's see how many we can get today. Yeah, we could use a lot of super chats. That's for sure. This is not an accurate representation of the Earth. No, Earth is definitely not this perfectly round. Not even close. The water obviously hides a lot of things. The vegetation on the Earth hides a lot of things. The whole photosynthesis process, and which is possible by water and sunlight. Yeah, Earth is nowhere near perfectly round. Not even close. Yeah, but it looks better this way as far as presentation purposes. And when I do videos, sometimes I'll make a slight modification, but I always tell you about it for presentation purposes. And this is definitely not the exact shape of the Earth. No way, Jose, not at all. Um, yeah, but again, some people are on board with the flat Earth theory, and you know what? I'm just curious since it was brought up by Combat Vet. And if you guys, again, have any super chats you want to hurl in the chat room, by all means do so. You can find the super chat down below, right by that smiley face, and pick a color. Whatever your favorite color is, pick a super chat, pick your favorite color, and let her rip. And then tell me what you believe. Since it was brought up, I wasn't going to bring it up because I personally, you guys know how I feel. I'm not, I've seen the Earth from a very unique perspective. And I was very thankful to be able to see it. It was during school many years ago. Are you guys flat? Do you want to say? I mean, round? It doesn't matter. I don't judge. Trust me. Flat or round? What do you think? Because if it's flat, then there, like old combat said, veteran said, there won't be a reversal. Probably can't be, right? Turn my volume up. Okay, there we go. Pull this up a little bit. I think I can. I think I can. Where are we at? Check. Yeah. Volume is at. Man, I'm in the red zone, buddy. I can't turn it up any louder. Sorry about that. I'm close to the red zone. Let's put it that way. Nothing's off limits, guys. That's right. Bring your questions, bring your super chats, and let's see where it goes. Nothing is off limits today. There's another super chat. Keep them coming. Sometimes vegan. Thank you for everything. I saw a flashing street light. See, there you go. Thank you, Sometimes Vegan, for the super chat and the information. I have an update to share with you guys, and I'll share it here in just a minute. Okay, I'm getting some comments here. Flat, round, no way it's flat. But again, in a respectful way, there is a huge community that thinks the Earth is flat, and they have their reasons. Sometimes vegan, old combat vet. What happened to the Van Allen radiation belt that we can penetrate? We live in a fiction written, directed, and produced by old combat vet. Van Allen radiation belt. I can explain some things. I'm not going to do it in this video. The Van Allen belts and all of this that we call home, I could explain it to you, and I am going to explain it, but I'm not going to do it in a video. My understanding and the things that I've learned over the years, and I've had some really good teachers over the years, very good teachers, and I've learned a lot from people much wiser than me and much older than me, and I took what they said very seriously, and I thought about it myself, and let's just put it this way. I've learned a lot over the years, so much so that I'm going to write a book. And what I'm going to share in this book is my understanding of, and it does involve a partial Van Allen belt, explanation and things like that. But how all this came to be, and once I explain it, and you'll see it in the book, you'll be like, oh yeah, and it's the simplest explanation sometimes that is the most accurate explanation. It really is. But it's taken me a lifetime, and I've been studying for, a long time, but not my entire life, obviously. But it's taken me a lifetime to accumulate this type of knowledge. Zach Ryan, thank you for the super chat. Zach, oval Earth. Yeah, honestly, it's shaped like a. Again, this is just from what I've seen from a satellite that was a polar satellite. It's not up there anymore, though. It was up there many years ago. Shaped like a pear. It's shaped like a unusual pear, and it's always got the tilt because the bottom's bigger than the top. So, yeah, it's shaped like a pear, but we can't see it. Obviously, we're in it. You can sometimes you can't see the big picture because you're in the picture. But if you can step outside the picture, wow, everything is crystal clear, and you can see everything for what it really is. In the meantime, we have to learn with the tools that we have access to, use our imagination, just like Galileo and Sir Isaac Newton and Mr. Einstein. I have a picture of Mr. Einstein right over there on my wall. It's right across the room. It's a big canvas right over there. It's 4 foot by 24 foot. But he too, you have to have a little bit of imagination in order to grasp some of this stuff, and then go from there. Then take your imagination and turn it into reality. But yeah, Earth is. They say more of a spheroid. I'm on board with the pear-shaped bottom, bigger than the top by 500, between 500 and 1,000 miles, causing the tilt. Yes, sir. Ask in faith and receive. Thank you for the super chat. What are your thoughts on the Bible's Antichrist that comes to rule the one world system? Check. Thank you for your questions, guys. Keep them coming. And again, nothing's off limits. Ask me whatever you want. Send me a super chat and I'll answer your question. Because with AI advances and suspect peace deals, it's obvious we are living. Yeah, you're right. Sin is rampant. We're seeing the book of Revelation basically unfold before our very eyes. Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right, Ask in Faith. So as far as who the Antichrist is, there's been a lot of talk about that over the years. And I honestly don't know. But I do feel like if you read the book of Revelations, it does seem like we're living in that time right now. Old Combat Vet, thank you for the super chat. Why do the stars at night circle Polaris? Good question. Overhead and not rise in the east and set in the west like the sun and moon. Google time lapse stars at night. That's a good question. I can tell you this. I do know, and again, based off of one of my, if you guys only knew the experiments, there's another super chat. Keep them coming, guys. Let's see how many super chats we can get today. Sometimes vegan. You may have covered this already. If so, I apologize. Is there any correlation between the torrential rains in Texas, or is that generated weather? That was, from what I saw on satellite, that was a natural phenomenon. I've been following this. Here, I'll show you on satellite. There's been a ton of moisture down here, and it moved to the north, and it stalled. So that moisture down there is not anything new. It's been there for several months. I've been following it for several months. Back to the stars, Old Combat Vet. That's a good question, but I can say this. Polaris is in a unique position with respect to the Earth and the way the Earth rotates and orbits the sun. I followed a star back in 2012. I found a star back in 2012 that essentially was a new star. It wasn't on the star map. Okay, and I followed this star, which was in the constellation of Hydra, and it was just to the left, 3 degrees to the star Alfred, in the head of Hydra, Hydra being the biggest constellation in the night sky. And the only time I could see this star was the second part of the second and third week of March. And the star was visible the first night that you could see it. As the Earth would rotate, you could see it at 9:34 p.m. and you could no longer see it at 10:08. It was like clockwork every night for 7 nights. And each night, the window of visibility got slower or smaller and smaller and smaller until the 7th night, you could only see the star one time. It would pulse. It was a pulsar. You could see it one time. You saw it at 10:04, and then I didn't see it again. Saw it the next year, like clockwork. If you knew where to look, you had to look in a dark patch of sky. 9:34 p.m., my time in Arizona, there it was. 365 degrees later, 365 days the following year. And I learned from following that star that the Earth was indeed moving around the sun. That's what was causing my visibility window to shrinken every night by, like one view, which a view was 3.5 minutes. So I did the math and I calculated how much we had to be moving every day in order for that to happen. And I found the star by sheer accident. I believe it was some sort of a pulsar, and Earth has to be lined up directly with it because the beam of light comes off the pulsar in a dedicated direction. And when we were right in the line of sight, You were able to see it for 7 nights in a row. So it was pretty cool. And I learned that by accident, but I kept a very specific calendar when I saw it, when I could see it again, and it was 365 days. So I know the Earth is orbiting something. Okay, here we go, guys. I'm going to try something different because old combat vets got me thinking now. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a poll. And this was a suggestion. I'm just curious. I'm curious. We're going to do a legitimate poll that we can actually measure. So hold on. Let me try something. It's right here. Okay, let's do a poll. And we'll be able to see what the outcome is. I'm curious because the chat, you guys are the smartest people in the world. Okay, how can I do this? Hold on. I'm trying to put together a poll, guys. I want to see what your thoughts are on this. I think I can do it in poll or question and answer. Let me see. No, we're going to do a poll. Okay. Okay, this is going to... Okay, there's only one way I can do this because I can't use A or B. The options are limited. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to ask this. In your opinion, do you and I'm just going to keep it simple. In your opinion, do you believe the Earth is round? And I'm going to start the poll right now, and it's a yes or no poll. And here we go. So if you think the Earth is round, in your opinion, do you believe the Earth is round? Yes being round, no being flat. That's the only way I could put this together. And I'm curious to see what your guys' thoughts are. I really am. This is going to be fun. I'm going to let this run for about, I don't know. Let's let it run for about 10 minutes and see how it goes, okay? Because in the meantime, I've got some other things that I can share with you guys. Oh, thanks for the old combat vet. Thanks for the why don't the stars rise in the east and set in the west like the moon? The stars are stationary. We're moving through the galaxy. Old combat vet. That's what I learned back when I followed that star back in Hydra back in 2012. And I saw the star 12, 13, 14, let's see, 12, 13, 14, 15. And briefly, I saw it in 2016, and then it was just no longer visible. I knew exactly where to look. I'll never forget that. It left an impression on me. It was quite mysterious. It was a pulse. If you can imagine a red nebula and a blue nebula, that's what I saw in the same location. And it too was on 3 minute and 30-second intervals. Very weird. And I saw that by accident. And it was blue and red. It was a jagged cloud. It would change color. One time it'd be red. Next cycle it would be blue. The next cycle it would be red. Next cycle it would be blue. And it wasn't very big. It was big enough to see with the naked eye. But I would say if you were to hold a dime, a coin, a dime up in the sky at arm's length, that's how big it was when it revealed itself. And it would pulse and then last for maybe a second and a half tops, and then come back 3 minutes later, 3.5 minutes later. You can set your clock by it. 3 minutes, 28 seconds to be totally honest. Yeah. So while we're doing the poll, guys, here's what we're going to do. Thank you for the super chats. Keep the super chats coming. Those are just kind of a super cool thing. Here's where we're at. So while we're waiting on the poll, I'm seeing some numbers come through, but we're going to check the specifics at the end of the poll. We're going to let the poll run for about 10 minutes. We're up to 735 now in the United States. On the US map, it is completely engulfed in, I'm using those blue stars just to mark the locations. Indian Head, Saskatchewan, Felicity B, 614. This is happening all over the world. Don't know why. There's a lot of speculation. That's why I talked about the magnetic field, because I never really touch on that a whole lot. Um, it's not something that there's anything we can necessarily do about, but could it be influencing this light situation? Because obviously the magnetic field is global. This is also a global event. Sister Bay, Wisconsin, West. Notice the lights on their cabin malfunctioning. They'd never done it before. Ask in Faith. Thank you for the super chat, Ask in Faith. Also, did you know MAGA actually means wizard, and turns out to be the highest MAGA Magnus? Democrats, Satan wing, Republican. Hold on, let me go back here. I'm sorry. And I did say nothing was off limits. So if you guys want to bring up if you want to talk about politics, bring it up. It's okay. We'll talk about politics if you want to, and nobody will be judged. Democrat is one wing. Yeah, I did know that about the wing of the eagle. That is true, but I always thought it was the wing of the eagle, and the eagle's holding what? Arrows, and the eagle's holding olive branches, right? Yeah, and that stuff can get pretty deep too, but I'm going to be honest with you. I've had to turn the news off. I haven't watched the news in 5 years. It is just like way out of pocket. Here's a lights flashing all around the world. Keep your super chats coming as we're looking at the flashing lights and waiting on the poll results. Poll results. I'm seeing 69% up there. These purple lights, I know it's a magnesium strip, but why are the magnesium strips all going bad at the same time? Why not just one here, one there? This entire parking lot looks like a movie set, right? And that's what compelled, let's see who took the video. I've got thousands of these guys, thousands. Jock Coletta out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. This looks like they've got this ready for the set of an eerie movie. Let's get the mood set in purple, and turn the lighting purple, and I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This is real. This is real. This is why the man took the video. He was shocked. He thought he drove up on a movie set. Are you guys all filming a movie here? But this is happening all over the world. And yes, we understand there's a magnesium strip in some of these bulbs that cause them to turn purple when the magnesium strip goes bad. I get it. But why are they all going bad at the same time? It's like there's a density wave of some sort of weird energy, almost like an EMP, right? An EMP attaches itself to it and causes them all to go bad at the same time. Like this restaurant here. This video was sent in by, let's see here. Midland, Ontario, Phelan, 628. This is obviously inside of an eating establishment. You can see many bulbs in the ceiling flickering. Not all, it's a rogue and random type of a thing, like energy and electromagnetic energy can be rogue and random, right? Here's example number 10. Guys, I've got thousands of examples. Jawan Ramsey, June 27th of 2025. I've gotten videos today that I haven't even touched. They're in a folder right over here that I'm waiting to turn into a video so I can, show them to you guys. Eventually, I'm not going to be able to show them all, but keep them coming. I really appreciate it. But I have, I'm almost at 1,900. I'm sure we'll hit 2,000. But here's another example. People's homes, businesses, street lights. I've got one right over here that I'm going to share with you guys. A guy pulled up to an intersection, and for some reason, the lights at the intersection, street lights, but the lights that control the flow of traffic were malfunctioning. That's not necessarily a good thing. So you would think those bulbs would be very steady, and for the most part they are. Most intersections that I've ever came up to, unless there was some form of construction going on, bulbs work perfectly. Not these. Kristen out of Ventura, California. Check it out. Lights up in that tree. Look like something you'd see in a movie. Just weird. She had never seen it do that. She's very familiar with this area. And there were lights off in the distance flickering. Rogue and randomly for unknown reasons. She couldn't figure it out. Never seen anything like it. These are things that people have never seen before. And you're seeing them here for the first time. Patrice P. out of Mesa, Arizona, right out here in my neck of the woods at 2:15 a.m. Came up on a parking lot of lights malfunctioning all over the place. And had no idea why, It's just like, okay, what's going on, Why are the lights malfunctioning? I can say this. Here's another example. This one's out in New Zealand. Check it out. So it is not only in the northern hemisphere. I've gotten videos from Denmark, Sweden, Norway. Look, New Zealand, here you go. Sandy Rayner, 6/11/2025. And this isn't the first video I've gotten out in New Zealand. Lights on the front of their house malfunctioning. And she had never seen that before. First time. So is this a sign of something bigger? I totally think so. Because I'm in a unique position over here with regard to the email and Dropbox. I see these videos come in from New Zealand, Southern Australia, Denmark, Norway, Ireland, Scotland, UK, Germany, France, Spain. I've gotten them from Africa, Malaysia, Singapore, the Philippines, even Hong Kong. Got one from Hong Kong. I was totally surprised. There's one right there. Again, made absolutely no sense. I'm waiting on the poll. Let's see what the poll has to say. We're going to check the poll here in about 3 minutes. Alex Bailey, Darlington, South Carolina. Walked into her bathroom. The lights were going bonkers. Had no idea why. They'd never done it before. Example number 17. I don't know if this, Terry, Montana, Jake, 618. This was in the daylight. He noticed the lights in the daylight flickering. He said he'd never seen that before. So that's why he took the video. Like there was a wave of energy that zipped through there that caused the lights to malfunction. And this is just a small example. Ernesto and Angela, light where they live. This is their neighbor's house. Light on top of their home, their garage or something. Malfunctioning very wildly. That was super bright. And then Daniel and Misty, June 20th of 2025. Not sure of the location, but the light in their living room. Here's another example of a light inside of a house. I've had people that were actually watching a YouTube video that I'd put up involving these bizarre flashing lights. And as they were watching the video, a light in their house started flickering. And they took videos, and I had two different people share that with me. One was from Punta Gorda, Florida. I remember one off the top of my head. The other one I would have to look. Lady was watching the video, and then the dining room light started to malfunction, and it had never done that before. Very, very bizarre indeed. And here's the intersection that I want to share with you guys. And then we're going to check the poll results. Okay, here we go. Intersection. Now, normally when you come up to an intersection in a modern city where there's thousands of people going through intersections on a daily basis, these lights have to work perfectly or near perfectly because, it can be problematic and you don't want that. So here we go. This is at an intersection in Lakeland, Florida. You seeing that? What are you supposed to do there? It's flickering red, green, and yellow. So who's supposed to stop and who's supposed to go? That's a problem. Are those lines detecting some sort of EMP energy that's causing them to malfunction? Possibly. So this is an example right here where it's a safety issue. We don't want intersection lights to be malfunctioning like this, but they were. And they had the presence of mind to take a video of these weird flashing lights. And here's another example out of South Carolina. This light back here was malfunctioning. Marty Hayden had never seen that before at this intersection in South Carolina. So guys, the examples are still coming in. in droves, and I don't know exactly why. But let's check the poll. You guys ready? Here we go. All right, here we go. The poll results. Let's look and see. It's been about 10 minutes. And I just kept it very simple. Oh, thanks for the super chat there. Praise him. In your opinion, do you believe the Earth is round? Because it didn't give me A, B options, A, B, C, or D. So I had to do it like this. 66% yes, and 33% no. That's the result of the poll with 641 people participating in the poll. Good job, guys. Thanks for your input. Really appreciate that. Thank you, Praise Him, for the super chat. Did you receive the emails from Jennifer Davis and able to analyze the strange one? Thank you for all you do. The name sounds familiar, Praise Him. I will double check, but I think the name does sound familiar. Okay, Lipstick in Life with the... I'm gonna have to click on that to see the name. All righty, but thank you for the super chat. The words couch and aliens are in the Bible. Thank you for that, Lipstick in Life. Appreciate that. We got going on here. Thank you for the super chat. I got the best moderator on YouTube handling business today. You guys want to do any other polls? Who's got a poll idea? I'm watching the weather. This is what I do every day over on this website or this laptop. There's one over here that I normally keep this weather on. That's where I've been following this moisture. I think it's going to be a wet summer, and I think there's going to be a lot of hurricanes that are going to push this moisture, tropical storms at the very least, up into the southern United States, some along the east coast of the United States. And I will check on that email from Jennifer. Thank you. And thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Pole dancers. The poles have been dancing for years. Any questions today, guys? We're open for questions, and you can ask anything. I mean, if you want to get political, I guess you can, but bring it in through a super chat and be nice. You know, I know it's a very sensitive subject. Love the splash. Not a ball, people. And there are people that believe the Earth is not round. And I'm on board with it not being perfectly round. I've actually seen it, like I said, from a satellite. But it did show it was spherical, kind of. Not perfectly round. It was, honestly, to be honest, shaped like a pear. An unusually shaped pear, you know what I mean? It is what it is. I don't know, but you're not on a ball, a round ball. No, not at all. Now the water makes it look round. Old combat vet, here we go. Thank you for the super chats, old combat vet. So you don't know why the stars circle over us? It's the rotation of the Earth. The rotation of the Earth. And yes, we are on a spinning ball because of a scientific experiment that I did involving the star that I found in Hydra. And I measured that star for 4.5 years. And that star was only visible based off of the position of the Earth and the rotation of the Earth and my ability to see the star. And it was a unique star that wasn't even on the star map. It was a star I found. So with that regard, not talking about the stars you're talking about, the stars that are labeled in the night sky, this was a unique star, looked like a pulsar. And I based it, and I could calculate, once I had 1 full year of monitoring this thing, the second year going into the third year, I was able to set my calendar and my clock off of when this star would reappear again based off of the rotation of the Earth and the movement of the Earth with respect to rotating around the sun. That's the only way, and the calculation came out perfect. So I don't know how else it would have done that if all of this wasn't in some sort of motion. Everything was moving, you know. it was a learning experience. I turned it into a learning experience, and it was a best I can understand. I did a lot of research on what I saw back in 2012. That's when I first saw it. I'm leaning towards pulsar, but it could have been a neutron star. Could have been two neutron stars, but it had a very unique personality. It was red and blue. And 5 times of the 90 times that I saw it, it was a piercing white, solid white circle with a black ring around it, just piercing. And it was right in the middle of where the red and blue clouds would appear. So I don't know. It could have been a neutron star, I suppose, but yeah, I know there's an entire just very lengthy debate, and there's many questions, and your question is a good one. Why don't the stars move like the moon and the sun? And there's a lot of different ways to interpret that and explain it. The moon's closer. We see the movement. The stars in the nighttime sky. Supposedly, we're looking at the light from the stars. That the some of the stars, I guess, supposedly aren't even there. So it's a very complicated field, but it's one it's debatable for weeks. You can debate it for weeks. I don't really want to debate it today. I found it curious, and thought we'd do a poll question on it. And thank you guys that participated. That's cool. But back to the pole shifting. There's 2 different types of pole shifts: a magnetic, which is the kind that we would prefer. If we had to pick or choose one, that would be the one that we would definitely want. The sun does it all the time. The sun, in fact, just went through a pole reversal not too long ago. Earth, from what we're told, it hasn't done it in over 700,000 years. We don't want to see a geophysical magnetic reversal. Obviously, that would be catastrophic and would cause all kinds of problems. And we don't want problems. We want peace. We want peace and unity. And that's one thing that we definitely need is unity. Do a poll on the polls. Okay, Matt G, we can do that. How can I word the poll on the polls? That's good. But I can do that. Good point. Good topic. That's what we're talking about. It's just I'm limited on the my moderator. Yeah, I mean, okay. I got the best moderator on the tube. Okay, so if I do a poll on the polls, how can I word this? Okay. Start another poll. Why not? Oh, thanks for the super chat. I'm sorry. I just saw one come through there. Who was that? Thomas Rossier, Research World in Peril by Ken White. Thank you, Thomas. World in Peril. Okay, it's a very simple question. It's yes or no, and here we go. You can participate if you wish. You don't have to participate, but here's poll number 2. And I worded it very simple to where it's a yes or no response. Do you feel a pole reversal? And this would be either one of the pole reversals, whether it be magnetic, which would be the most favorable kind, or a geophysical, which would be the least favorable kind. Do you feel that one is in the near future? I'm going to be honest with you. For years, I've kind of been a little skeptical on, the whole pole reversal thing. I know it's been a thing. Scientists have proven that due to, minerals they found in the ground and their magnetic orientation changing. I understand that. But as far as, any of us knowing exactly when would be a bit difficult unless something in our environment was trying to tell us, hey, this is going on, that's going on, like we're seeing with these weird flashing lights. Then that got to thinking, and people have sent emails and asking, do you think possibly that the weakening magnetic shields could be influencing the flow of electricity? Very simple, but yet has huge ramifications. And I'm like, you know what? Those are great questions. So yeah, if the flow of electricity is interfered with and becomes dirty electricity, which is a real thing, you can Google it. Ask Surrey. It's a very real thing. It will cause things to malfunction. Yeah, yeah, of course. It's a real thing. Dirty electricity, and it's created can be created naturally, or man-made, or combination of both. So we'll let the poll run here for a couple of minutes. Let me see what else I can show you guys that I have ready. Oh, the old light whip, this thing here. I'm going to just show this. Here's what we'll do. We'll look at the sun. I'll give you a quick update on the sun while we're waiting on the poll results. We're going to let it run for another 8 minutes, 4:18. We'll look at the poll results. And looking at the GOES X-ray flux, looking at the sun, it is unbelievably quiet, with the exception of a moderate class M-class solar flare within the last 24 hours, but didn't last very long. That's the only activity we've seen in nearly 10 days with regard to solar flares. Looking at the planetary K index, this is an index that keeps track of CMEs that interact with the Earth and sometimes spark geomagnetic storms. Some in the KP, 9 G5 range, all the way down to what we're seeing here. This was a G1, very minor geomagnetic storm that may have produced auroras way up in the Arctic Circle and down in the southern hemisphere as well. Looking at the Parker spiral here, this shows us if there's anything coming in from the sun. And as you can see, again, it's quiet. There's a spike over here on the 13th. Right there, you can see a slow moving cloud of plasma headed towards the Earth, and that's more than likely from a coronal hole. I'd have to look, but that's a few days off. Today is the 8th. That's going to take 5 days to get here. That is a slow moving plasma cloud. But sometimes, just so you know, sometimes the slower moving ones are the more active ones with regard to geomagnetic storm activity on the Earth. Yes, not the fast ones. It's the slow ones. Oh my goodness. But check this out, looking at the Earth facing side of the sun. What happened to solar maximum? Where did it go? Kiwi Lass, where did it go? Thank you for the super chat. Where's solar max? We are in the pole shift right now. Why the heightened quakes around the world are triggering off. Thank you, Kiwi, for the super chat. Appreciate that. And thank you for the input. We very well could be. I've followed earthquakes for years. I've seen bigger swarming, though, down in the Southern Pacific, obviously Kilauea. There used to be swarms over in Greece and Turkey that are no longer there, but there were swarms over there for years, and this was over 12 years ago. It's just a ebb and flow of energy around the planet. Could be instigated by the pole shift that we're in the middle of. We very well, and you know what? It takes so long to occur, we probably are. And you're probably right. You're probably right. And we're probably always, in some degree, in the middle of a pole shift. Just depends on, okay, it's going to be another 200,000 years, 100,000 years, 50,000 years, 2 years, who knows? But the Earth will respond, just like you said. There'll be an increase in earthquake activity and volcanic activity to a certain degree with regard to a magnetic reversal. We don't want to see a geomagnetic reversal. Lord, no. Look what we got coming over here, though. I wondered what happened to solar maximum, and it's hiding over here on the northeastern limb of the sun. There you are. That's a decent-sized sunspot getting ready to turn towards the Earth. Be visible in less than 48 hours. Will it be Earth-directed in 48 hours? No. it'll be at least 96 before it's Earth directed. But there's an active region and sunspot right there. But that is rare for solar maximum. It is almost blank, the Earth-facing side of the sun. Almost blank in solar maximum? Are you serious? Is this the calm before the storm? I'd say so. Looking at the power outage situation, I think this is associated with the remnants of Chantal. Yeah, well, they're storming up there now, but let's look. Where's the power outage at in southern Pennsylvania? Northern. 1600. Oh yeah, southern, southeastern for sure. Chester County, 7266 in Pennsylvania. Anybody know what's up in Pennsylvania? 10,000 in Maryland. Primarily eastern Maryland, but not limited to. Oh well, coincides with the southeastern Pennsylvania. 4,400 in Hartford County, Maryland. So between Maryland and Susquehanna, well, that's only 1,600 there. Oh, down here, 7,200 Chester, over 10,000 just in those two counties. Anybody up there knowing what's going on? Is there storm activity left over from the tropical remnant low now, Chantal? Chantal, I'm sorry, Chantal. The next one's going to be Dexter whenever it decides to arrive. Tropical storm, Dexter. Send your questions, guys. Go down to the bottom of the chat, pick a super chat, and send your questions. Nothing's off the table today. For the most part, you know what I mean. Be kind. Looking at the Yellowstone supervolcano caldera. This would tell us if we're in the middle of a pole shift. All these things that we're looking at here, with the exception of the surface of the sun, power outages. We've looked at volcanoes today, earthquake. Now, the supervolcano caldera. These things tell stories. You know, these instruments tell stories. This right here is trying to tell us something. It's either that, okay, one thing, the instrument is all jacked up and doesn't work right and hasn't now for several weeks, or the ground is indeed moving and it's very unstable right now. Look at that seismograph. Normally it's a steady line, and whenever it feels earthquake energy, you'll see the pulse, right? I'll show you one that's normal. This is not normal. Okay, here's one that's just like super quiet. To see the earthquake activity, that's what it's supposed to look like, you know? But what is supposed to look like at a supervolcano? This is telling us a story that something is happening along the northern edge of the caldera. Could it be a new geyser forming? Could there be activity related to a possible eruption? I think if it were that size of a scale of a situation where this thing was getting ready to erupt, all of these seismographs, and that's what we're waiting on. We don't want to see it, but the day that we come here and see all of these seismographs looking like this, then we know that we're in the middle of an eruption. There's no doubt about it. Or they coincidentally, like the light bulbs, all went bad at the same time. You know what I mean? That's the way I look at the lights. How can they all go bad at the same time? Unless there's something going on. Hey, Steve B. Thank you for the super chat, sir. Really bad storms just rolled through here in Philly. Had a tornado warning about an hour ago. Thank you, sir, for the update. I've been watching the weather roll through the Pennsylvania, Maryland, New Jersey actually right now. I'm surprised they're not on the power outage map because that looks like a fierce system right there. And yes, I completely can understand why there's a tornado warning. Look at that. Those are strong storms going through southeastern Pennsylvania, eastern Pennsylvania, most of New Jersey right now, northern Maryland, Delaware. I'm sure those power outage numbers that we just looked at over here at the homepage of the website right here. And they did update the map. Sure enough, New Jersey just eclipsed 10,000. Probably central New Jersey, right? Yeah. 2,100 in Burlington County, 4,400 in Ocean County, 2,300 in Mercer County. So thank you, Steve, for the update. The storms are indeed rolling through. Here they are. In fact, we can go in a little bit closer. Let's check them out. Here we go. There's your storms. Wow. Boy, you can see the convection even on this one here that is not real specific. I have another one that I use. It's my own personal one that I can see the convection. I can see how high up it is in the sky. I can tell there's some big time convection right there above the northern Potomac. Wow. Yeah, I'd say tornado warning indeed there. Woo! And that's traveling, the convection's coming north to south. Good Lord. Oh, okay. Thank you, Steve, for the super chat. Appreciate that, man. Let's check the results of the polls. You guys ready? Here we go. All right. I like these polls. These are fun. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's just your opinion. You're entitled to your opinion. Absolutely. There we go. Okay. Do you feel a pole reversal is coming in the very near future? Wow. 3 to 1. 74%, an overwhelming yes. Okay. Now I could go dive a little deeper and ask why, but it would be so incredibly complicated to try to read all the answers. But I'm curious as to why you think that. Are there things occurring around the Earth? That's got to be why. With the uptick of earthquakes and volcanic activity, that would probably be your main talking points, with regard to the magnetic shields getting weaker. The South Atlantic anomaly would be another point of discussion. If that's getting bigger and growing and becoming weaker, then that tells you that the shields are moving a little bit more. The wandering of the magnetic north, that's another indicator that yes, we could be headed towards a very near pole shift event. Yeah, I get you. Just be careful of the UV, guys. That would be the primary concern during a magnetic pole reversal. Wow. And if it lasts any great length of time, UV could be compromised. What we're used to on a day-to-day basis. That's why we measure the UV. We're checking the health of our shields. Is what we're doing. Darren up in Abbotsford, I used to have people around the world doing it. A guy from Holland over in Amsterdam. Had a guy in Portland, Oregon, Redding, California. Oh, there's Jeff Snyder too. Thank you, Jeff, for the super chat. Yeah, I had people all around the world that would send me UV readings and started getting some unusual UV readings. And a couple guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, they got scared and quit taking the readings because they thought the shields were about ready to collapse. But they're still here, they're still working, and they've seemed to stabilize, thankfully. But I got to be honest, they had a right to be nervous because they were measuring the UV from Portland and over in Amsterdam, and the readings were very unusual there for a while. So maybe that's a normal thing with the Earth. I don't know, but it was a little bit concerning. It's like, okay, are these shields about ready to collapse? But they didn't. They stabilized and they got stronger, and here we are. Jeff, thank you for the super chat and the question. Do you think they would blame adversarial countries like Iran's newly developed plasma technology or Russia's ability to block out the sun or direct energy weapons to conceal natural phenomena and maintain social order? You're a very smart guy, Jeff, with an incredible memory. Yes, I do. I agree with you there. I think there's been several things that have already happened with regard to the Earth and our environment and things like that. That for whatever reasons, we're not told the entire story. A lot of things, and I kind of get why. I do. They don't want to cause global panic. Nobody wants to cause that. We don't want to see that. But I think people have a right to know this is your home too. This is what we call this place home, and it's our ship. And if the ship is compromised in some way, if we all put our heads together, maybe we can fix it. It's like, and thanks again, Jeff, for the super chat. If you guys have any questions, send them through the super chat. Always like the super chats coming through The chat room. That's really cool. Thanks again, Jeff. But yeah, I mean, I get why they maybe not share certain things with the public, but two minds are better than one. And when you put 1,000 minds on one topic, you're going to figure it out. Yes, sir. Impossibly whacked out. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Impossibly whacked out. There's a variety of names that come through here. That's cool. My uncle is MIT scientist at CERN. He says it's all contained and nothing to worry about. CERN's been around for a while. Thank you for the input there. Is that Score Owl? I don't want to get your name wrong there. Owl. Oh, Secret Owl. Gotcha. Secret Owl. Yeah, the CERN had been around for a while. There was a CERN. It's not active anymore, from what I understand. There's obviously the one over in Switzerland. What is it? Geneva, Austria, Switzerland. Then there was one in Chicago. Wasn't quite as big, but they experimented with one in Chicago for many years. And again, I don't think it's active anymore. And I know there's been other ones. I could Google it. I'm not going to. I just know there's been several, and it's not anything new. It's not anything new, and they've been around for a while. They've been experimenting with these things, looking for the Higgs boson particle, you know. Subatomic particles. It all starts at the molecular level, guys. Everything's a frequency. All these molecules have their own unique frequency. That's like the interstellar traveler that's coming through the solar system. In fact, it's going through the solar system right now as I do this video. Where's it at? Right here. This little guy, actually, he's not real small. He's 12 miles wide. Where did he come from? But he marches to the beat of a different drum, if you know what I mean. He come from a different star. Okay, like our star, our sun has a unique output. The Earth has a unique frequency. Everything has a frequency. Everything is a frequency, right? The leaves on trees, they respond to frequencies, energy from the sun. Things that grow on the Earth wouldn't necessarily do too well in an environment that didn't involve our sun. So this object, whatever it is that they're saying right now, it's a comet. Right there's the path of this thing, that green line you see there across the center of the screen. This object is barreling through here at about 150,000 miles an hour from another star. So it's marching to the beat of that drum. So what's it doing over here? The drum being the star. And it's got a unique frequency. Nothing would grow on this planet next to a star that had a different frequency, you know. So Earth is perfectly placed, positioned with regard to the frequency of the sun. So everything just thrives, you know. But this little guy here should be studied. They need to be trying to catch up with this thing. If we have anything that can move 150,000 miles an hour, get the biggest telescope, put Webb on it right away. I'm sure they already have. Yeah, that's kind of cool. 12 miles wide, moving at 150,000 miles an hour. But you would think at those incredible speeds, mind-bending speeds, why isn't it going sublime? It's got to be going sublime. It's inside the orbit of Jupiter. You serious? 150,000 miles an hour? Sir Charles Newton, thank you for the super chat. Very cool. Appreciate that. Keep the super chats coming, guys. Thank you. I appreciate that, Charles Newton. Thank you, Jeff Snyder. Jeff Snyder has a photographic memory, I think. That's just my opinion, Jeff. And I say that in the kindest way. You have a memory like a steel trap. You remember videos that I put up 8 years ago. It reminded me of it. I'm like, oh yeah, I did put that up 8 years ago. Wow, that's impressive. And speaking of impressive, look at the convection here above the North Potomac going down into eastern Maryland. Wow. Yeah, we're watching a storm system right now along the eastern seaboard that's got to be taking out power. There's high winds there, very tall convection, so there's tornado warnings from what I understand. Oh my. Guys in the Maryland area, especially the northern Potomac, I think that's right above what? Washington? Look at Google Earth, I guess, right? Well, that's interesting. Huh. Okay. Well, yeah, Wilmington, southern Philadelphia, Dover. There's Washington, and you can see that storm is just wow. So that's got to be above the Washington, D.C. area? Elk River. Yeah, it's in that general area. Hmm. Tornado warnings. Guys, be safe if you're in those areas. Let's look at the power situation. I just checked, and let's see if they've updated this. This is over poweroutage.us. Yeah, now it's up to 19,000 in Pennsylvania, 17,000 in Maryland. Still have power outages in Texas from the terrible flooding. My goodness, that was just terrible. So sorry for all the people affected by the flooding in Texas and North Carolina. There was flooding in North Carolina. We talked about that before Chantal made landfall, about the possibility of flooding in North Carolina, and it did materialize. Not near as bad as Texas, thankfully, but bad enough. There were several water rescues. I think power outages, right? Yeah, there's still 3,000 customers in North Carolina without power. 13,000 in New Jersey as this storm is barreling through there. Wow. And you know, the last poll question, and several people, in fact, 75% almost, feel that a pole reversal is in the near future. I would assume that we'll see an increase in severe weather, along with an increase in volcanic activity, an increase in earthquake activity for sure. But I think weather would be a very key indication that things are getting, out of balance with regard to the flow of energy, like the flow of energy going to these crazy light bulbs. See, that's why I think the way I do. A lot of people disagree, like, oh, they're faulty bulbs. No, they're not. My wife and I were driving down a stretch of road out here in Arizona, a major highway, freeway. It's got like 6 lanes, 3 going east, 3 going west. We ran across multiple areas, and this is a very modern new highway with the big lights down the center. Ran across many sections that went on for several miles. And this was at night, by the way, and the lights were just off. It was almost an eerie type of a feeling. They were just off. They're supposed to be on. We're out in the middle of the desert, man. So I'd never seen that before, neither had she. And we came up on a few, not many, but a few that were just super dim. Then we ran across 3 that were super, super dim, like they were trying to come on but couldn't. And then 2 or 3 miles of just completely off. It's like, okay, we're just kind of dismissing it as a glitch, but there have been a lot of glitches lately, guys. That's all I'm saying. Been a lot of glitches lately. So we'll see glitches in the atmosphere with regard to wild and wacky weather, and we're seeing strong storms right now above the North Potomac out here in Maryland, moving over into Delaware. Yeah, I would say very strongly, if you're in Eastern Maryland, anywhere in Delaware right now, Southern New Jersey, I would find an interior room with no glass. No joke. That's some major convection right there, and convection causes vortexes. Vortexes can sometimes turn into tornadoes. Large hail. I'm certain there's large hail there, because I'm looking at the tops of those clouds, and they're super, super cold. So they're producing large hail. Yeah, absolutely. So there's large hail right now in Maryland. There's got to be high winds, super heavy rain, especially in the northeastern Maryland area right now, southeastern Pennsylvania, going through southern New Jersey. I'm certain there's tornadic activity there. There almost has to be, according to the radar. And not only there, but down in Virginia, a couple of areas in Virginia look like they're hot spots starting to form. Northern Virginia, Eastern Virginia. I don't know how this turned into a weather stream, but it did, because there's severe weather forming right now as we're doing this video. Notice the power outages. Yeah, if you're in Northern Virginia, Eastern Virginia, Maryland, Eastern Maryland, good grief, what's going on here? North of Washington, south of Washington, east of Washington, right above Baltimore, going over into Delaware. I would say if you're in Denton, Milford, Milton, Georgetown, Dover, Glen Burnie, Annapolis, wow, Bethany Beach. Where are we at in Northern Virginia here? Fredericksburg. I'm just trying to, Charlottesville, Richmond, Norfolk. I would definitely be in an interior room with no glass right now. Absolutely. And in New Jersey, southern New Jersey. Jersey, where's Jersey? Vinland, Millville, Bridgeton, Glassboro. Yeah, you guys need to find some shelter if you're in these areas here. That is a hot spot. There's another area just popped up right now as I'm doing this video. Are you kidding me? There's another super chat. Kirk Christopher, thank you for the super chat. We're already in World War III since 2020. Well, I mean, yeah, the Earth has always kind of been in some state of dysfunction, it seems like, doesn't it? But hopefully it won't last too long. Back to these storms, guys. Yeah, if you're in those areas where you see the bright orange, wow, I would find an interior room with no glass. And these things are very rapidly developing. Well, guys, thank you for your participation in the polls. I want to thank everybody for the super chats. It's been fun. We talked about a new topic today, but the reason I brought this up is because of the earthquake activity, number one. But I wanted to point out that based off the research that I've done, there's going to be a little bit of an increase in earthquake activity with regard to a geomagnetic pole reversal, but it's not going to be off the charts. You know what I mean? We're going to see more atmospheric anomalies like weather anomalies and UV anomalies, definitely anomalies in the UV. Those are the things that we need to watch real close. So when we start seeing unusual, highly unusual weather patterns, which we are seeing them, right? But we also kind of in between La Nina and El Nino, but it could be the magnetic shields. These lights, electronics, just in general malfunctioning. I mean, we're seeing car lights malfunction, for crying out loud, you know? So there's something in the environment that's just trying to tell us a story, and it's more than just a faulty bulb. That's my humble opinion, based off of the emails and things I get in the Dropbox. People are seeing this stuff. As you saw in today's live stream, I shared one with you from New Zealand. It's not just in, the United States, it's all around the world. I've received over almost 1,900 now. By tomorrow, it'll probably be over 1,900, and we'll be approaching 2,000 soon. So, and again, I'm just one person. So can you imagine if 100 people were receiving reports of faulty lights, malfunctioning, rogue randomly all around the world? It would be in the tens of thousands more than likely. It's happening everywhere. At any given time all around the world. So once again, if you're out in the Delaware, Wilmington, Maryland, southern Jersey, southeastern Pennsylvania, eastern, northeastern Virginia, definitely find a room with an interior room with no glass. Big heads up, there's strong convection forming is showing up here on the radar. Convection forms can form tornadoes. So big heads up, guys, if you're along the East Coast. Once again, thanks for the super chats, guys. Thanks for sticking around. Really appreciate it. We'll do it again here soon. Thanks for watching. Have a super day and be safe out there.